Ladies and gentlemen, in this part of this afternoon's programme, it's my distinct honour to introduce a remarkable advocate for human rights, for democracy and for social justice, someone who has been a judge at the European Court of Human Rights for 8 years, as well as a former Minister of Justice for Moldova. It is our great pleasure to introduce onto this stage Stanislav Pavlovschi. Thank you so much.
Dear Mrs. President, dear friends, colleagues, it's my honor to be here today together with you. And I frankly, I'd like to express my deep gratitude to organizers for this absolutely unique possibility to address such an honorable audience. The current situation in Iran can be discussed from very many various points of view: political, economic, social, cultural aspects. But being a lawyer with a very lengthy experience, over 40 years experience, and being a judge of the European Court of Human Rights, of course it is closer to me to discuss legal issues. The massacre of 1988, which claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people, was a tragic event that deeply shocked not only Iranian society, but the entire civilized world. I bow my head in memory of the victims and express my deepest condolences and sympathy to their loved ones and relatives, to those who have been seeking justice for decades. It is known, justice delayed is justice denied, and the time for justice has come. Such tragic events should have no place in the world based on the principles of humanity, where human life and dignity are absolute values protected by all jurisdictions, and the world should do everything to guarantee that they will never happen again. The problem of impunity of those allegedly involved in the mass killing of people remains very serious. There is a clear need for an international, independent, and effective investigation into all alleged extrajudicial executions. The United Nations are trying to take some steps in this direction. Without such an investigation, it would be simply impossible to establish the truth. But having said that, I asked myself, would these tragic events have ever happened if there was a judicial system in Iran that operates on the principles of a fair trial, a judiciary in which judges are truly independent and act impartially, where accused and defendants are free to use legal aid and to choose the lawyer of their choice, where lawyers and public prosecutors have the same procedural rights, where proceedings are adversarial, and where judges make their decisions only after careful consideration of all the evidence submitted by both the prosecution and the defense. Of course, such tragic events would have never happened. Yes, no legal system is completely immune to error, but the risk of conviction of innocent people in a fair trial is much lower than in a legal system that goes against the basic principles of modern justice, especially when it comes to the death penalty. It is possible to repair judicial errors when, for instance, a person is sentenced to imprisonment. But how can we repair mistakes committed in reference to a person who has already been executed? And this is one of the reasons why the European Convention on Human Rights in absolute terms prohibits such forms of punishment, consider them to be inhuman. For my part, I would add, the life is given to human beings by God, and only God can take it away. Many other forms of punishment widely applied in Iran are also of great concern. And here I'm referring to various forms of corporal punishment that are cruel and inflict terrible suffering on people, leading to mutilation. Also, there is a lot of credible information about the use of torture by law enforcement agencies to illegally obtain confessions from the accused. Of course, such forms of investigation are incompatible with the fundamental rights of the accused, including their right to remain silent. The European Convention on Human Rights prohibits all forms of punishment and treatment that are inhuman and degrading. The situation is even more dramatic when it comes to young people who are subject to such forms of punishment and inhuman and degrading treatment. The future belongs to the youth, and killing young people means killing the future. Iranians are one of the oldest nations, if not the oldest one in the world. Their history exceeds 5,000 years. They have a very rich culture and very rich national traditions. But the question remains whether in conditions of modern life, it is in the best interests of people to continue to apply and be subject to inhuman and degrading forms of punishment and treatment which were applied hundreds and thousands of years ago. My answer is definitely no. Do Iranian people deserve to enjoy the benefits of modern legal principles and systems? Will these changes of a structural nature prevent such tragic events as the 1988 massacre from happening again in the future? My answer is definitely yes. As you know, there are various human rights mechanisms, protection mechanisms in the world. The European Court of Human Rights, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, the African Court of Human and People's Rights. But there is no such mechanism for the Asian region, Middle East included. Accordingly, the Asian population is deprived of international protection of their human rights and fundamental freedoms. In my opinion, the time has come to open a discussion on the drafting of a special Inter-Asian Convention on Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, and ultimately establish an Inter-Asian Court of Human Rights, which would protect people from what we are witnessing now in Iran and other parts of Asia. So, you, dear friends, have a lot of problems in front of us to solve. I wish you all the very best in your endeavors, and may God help you. Thank you.